Hello everyone and welcome to Iron Reviews podcast. If you're returning listening, great, good to hear you back. If you've been following me on Instagram, you'll kind of know a bit about the topics that we're going to be talking about today. I am currently in a very different location to where I normally am. I'm up in Aberdeen. Done a bit of a road trip to come up here. It's actually quite a nice day. I've heard the weather back down the way is minging, so it's actually quite good to get up here and enjoy some nice weather. It's always a good laugh when we come up here, as much as we can get away with the coronavirus outbreak and things like that. Things are starting to open up here as well, which is nice. So we've managed to get to the pub, obviously a social distancing pint, but we've managed to get there as well. I've got an extra special guest on here today, a dear friend that I met about 10 years ago back in my old college days. We've kept in touch through our love of music, our love of metal, our love of rock music. Sometimes his music choice can be a little bit questionable, but we'll get to that at some point when we dive into this. This is my friend Matthew from Aberdeen. How are you getting on?
Thanks very much, Jack. Pleasure to be on your show. Thank you very much.
How are you getting on?
I'm okay. It's like you said, it's strange times, but we're getting back to that little bit of normality now. I've done a bit of record shopping, which has been nice, because it's weird that we're in these times where we're stuck indoors and everything, and again, with a certain topic that we're going to be discussing, it's weird that we don't have gigs to go to, because as you know, live music for us too is a huge deal. We don't have gigs to go to, but the music's always there. We've got music to listen to, live live shows, rock DVDs, rock shows on YouTube. So it's not all too bad. And as you can see from the area and the weather we've got here, I can think of worse places to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually the northeast of Scotland is beautiful. It's good to actually get out and explore as well.
We've had some good times here, you and I, though, haven't we? We've twice seen Iron Maiden.
We've been up for a couple of cover bands as well.
Yeah, it's always been a good night.
We'll get into that a bit, but it was good to get out today. We were out today in a few of the record stores, and
we did. We made a couple of purchases. One new one that we'd never a shop that we'd never been in before. Where the guys couldn't have been more helpful.
Yep, Aberdeen Vinyl,
which is I'm going to add that pretty quickly. The Aberdeen Market building is being knocked down and turned into flats because it's rack and ruin now. It's not a very nice building, but the businesses they were hoping to get transferred elsewhere, and they've literally moved into a building that was free next door, and I'm really glad about that, because as you know, high streets are struggling at the moment.
Yep, it's good to get into in purchase records. I think we got some Thin Lizzy today as well. And
I don't know about you, but as much as I love Spotify and I love looking at stuff on YouTube music wise, I love going into a shop and raking through records, as we saw today, and as customers love to do that. I'm not so much of I never really go in to buy CDs now. I love I like buying double packages with like a live concert DVD and like a live album together.
Not a lot of bands do that.
Not a lot of bands do that now, but I love raking through vinyl, and if I can get a good deal as I got today, perfect.
Because we got the Slayer one today actually. We did. Repentless, which has got the Vacan DVD from 2014.
Well, why not? Well, let's compare here, because you got a lot of heavy hardcore stuff. You got your Slayer today, your Lamagod? No,
it was Behemoth. Behemoth. And I did pick up a Wham record for my sister.
Yes.
Which we will never discuss again. But
I must admit, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw it in his hands, and I thought, are you honestly buying that? But then again, each to their own. It was for his sister.
Oh, that's
because
true.
the band.
I won't listen to it.
Well, it's a Christmas classic. But the band that I purchased today are one of my favourite bands, and Jack does seem to like them. I know I got a lot of slack for liking them, and that's Status Quo, but they've got a special place in my heart, and so I got some Status Quo today. I got some Genesis. I got some Bad Company. I got some Toto, the Isolation album, which is quite ironic with the title, and I got. What was the other one?
Did you pick up the Simple Minds?
I did have Simple Minds, Sparkling Rain in my hand, but I thought it was a bit. I just couldn't. You can't have everything. But it's a shop, like I said. My first time there, the guys could have been more helpful, and I'll definitely be back.
For our listeners as well, obviously we have a big metal community, and there was a nice metal selection in there as well. I've seen quite a lot of Machine Head actually.
A lot of Machine Head, some Rare Maiden stuff. I think there was one or two priest things kicking about.
Yeah.
We saw some nice priest things in HMV as well, actually.
We did. But the reason I've got you on here today is because obviously you live up here.
Indeed.
You've lived up here most of your life.
I have. I used to come home on weekends from college, and we, as I say, we've kept in touch ever since then.
Yeah. So I've been up a number of times, as you mentioned, for gigs and the odd booze up as well. But I always found that there's a good community up here that of rock and metal sort of fans. But I also think there seems to be a bit of an issue with venues up here.
You're absolutely right.
And I don't know if that's... there seems to be a lot of venues up here that have a lot of potential but seem to be closing down.
You're absolutely right.
A lot of you, if you go to gigs up in Aberdeen, you'll have probably seen Matthew kicking about, because you do get about quite a lot to these gigs. So if you could give us a bit of background on the venues that are located in Aberdeen and what ones you've had the opportunity to visit.
Okay, well currently, and I'm going to take you back here as well because I've had some help with research from my father as well. The current venues we've got, but obviously all are currently now shut down to COVID-19, and we hope and pray that all the music industries will come back stronger than ever.
Yeah,
hope so.
Just so that everyone knows as well, the discussion that we're having today is kind of absent to COVID. Obviously we understand that the COVID crisis will have an impact on these music venues, but this is more of a kind of general thing, because a lot of these venues have been suffering for years.
Luckily the government have stepped up recently.
Right, okay, well let's discuss that. So tell us a bit about the venues that are here.
So the venues that are currently in Aberdeen for music are, you've got the recently, there was the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre, which is now changed to Tekka. They've moved it. Me and you have been there to see Iron Maiden. So they now call that Tekka. That used to be in Bridge of Dawn, has now moved into Dice. I was at the first ever gig there when it opened in October. It was Alice Cooper. Fantastic night. I mean, it made me an even more bigger Alice Cooper fan. You've got that. You've got the Music Hall, which is located on Union Street. The Music Hall, I have had the opportunity over the years to see Mr. Gary Moore, sadly, just a few months before he passed away. I've seen Mike and the Mechanics there. I've seen Ocean Colour Scene there. I've seen Feeder. I've seen... who else have I seen there? I was going to see Status Quo there, but hopefully that will come about later on. I've seen many tribute acts, which have also been very, very good.
Yeah.
You've got...
You managed to catch, was it Foo Fighters UK been up here a couple of times?
Yeah, I saw them at one of the venues that we're going to talk about that's recently shut down. And they also played last year and had to get moved to another venue. They were not due to come back this year, sadly. Hopefully they will in the future. You've got the Tivoli Theatre. The Tivoli Theatre, again, a lot of musicals are done there, but you got a lot of good tribute bands there, and some odd headlining acts that come up and do, like some artists will come and do acoustic shows there, and a talk, like a question and answer session, or a book signing, which is great. Again, I've had some really good nights at Tivoli. I've seen ELO again, great tribute band, The Spirit of Free and Bad Company, the Genesis Legacy, Hotel California, tribute to the Eagles. Amazing tribute. You've got the Lemon Tree, which is located on King Street. The Lemon Tree has had some pretty... The Lemon Tree's been on the go for many, many years, and it actually shut down suddenly in 2007. But then after a few months, it was bought over and reopened again. The people that owned it previously, there was a situation, had never told the bands that were due to come up that it closed down, and it turned up to a closed venue, which was shocking. In particular, one of the regular acts in the Lemon Tree every year was a Thin Lizzy tribute. You might have heard of them, the number one Lizzy tribute in the UK called Limehouse Lizzy. They were a regular visitor to Aberdeen and they loved it, but they turned up for the gig and the Lemon Tree was boarded up and nobody had told them. And that is quite bad.
So they came all the way up here.
Yeah.
Where Limehouse Lizzy from?
Manchester.
So they came all the way up here from Manchester.
I don't know if it was all the way from Manchester. I think they were.
I think
they were doing it. They never stopped touring. They're one of the hardest working tribute touring bands I know. But they came all the way up, and the gig. I think they came from they always do the ferry in Glasgow. That's been on their consistent list for years. And then they came up and there was nothing there. And ever since then, because they always loved Aberdeen. Oh, we're such good friends, Aberdeen. So
surely they must have had someone to contact.
Well, this is the thing. I get Again, we never got the full story.
Right.
My dad tried to get out of them. I tried to get out of them, and they've been funny about. They have played Aberdeen since. They played once in 2014. They were meant to come back the following year, but it was double booked with a Dire Straits tribute act. And I've also seen I've seen Wishbone Ash at the Lemon Tree. I've seen the New York Dolls, which was very interesting. My dad saw Blue Oyster Cult there in 2003. Many a great night at the Lemon Tree. Love it. We've also got the Tunnels, which is just off of the bottom of Union Street. The Tunnels is mainly for tribute acts, but I've seen Funeral for a Friend there. I've seen The Answer there. I've seen Moreland and Arbuckle, duo from Texas.
How big is that venue?
The Tunnels are not very big. There's Tunnels 1 and there's Tunnels 2. And then next door to the Tunnels there's the newly opened Unit 51, which is where I've seen Made in Scotland many a time.
Right.
Definitely Oasis, a Killers tribute, some Metallica thing. And you've also got Cafe Drummond's on Belmont Street. Drummond's is... I saw Kel Faulkner there from The View. Again, different tastes, many tribute acts. But my favourite of the smaller venues that I really like, and I'm sure you'll agree, is Krakatoa.
Yeah, we've actually been there a couple of times.
Krakatoa is amazing. It used to be called the Moonings Bar. It's changed its name. But the thing I don't like about Krakatoa is that even though you have a great night there, there's not as many acts getting booked as it was when it was called the Moonings, and I don't know why.
It was exactly the same venue.
Exactly the same venue. I had the pleasure, this was amazing, I saw Black Star Riders do an acoustic gig at Krakatoa.
What?
Ricky Warwick and David Johnson.
Now, if people that know Krakatoa, it's an incredibly tiny stage.
Very tiny.
Yeah.
The bars, yeah.
I remember seeing Made in Scotland there.
We had a great night.
The Iron Maiden tribute, and they were crammed onto that stage, so there was not a lot of room for them.
They were crammed. The UK Foo Fighters have done it too. I mean, I think a lot of people like it because of the intimacy, but I think, again, people underestimate how small it actually is.
Yeah. Because it's actually a really good bar. I've been there for drinks quite a lot.
I love it. Went there before Iron Maiden, didn't you?
Yeah, and it's a nice atmosphere. It's really good music. It's nice that they get a chance to put live bands on, but I'm wondering if maybe they struggle to put the live bands on because of the size of the stage.
Maybe. I don't think it's the same people that own it as it was when it was the Moorings, but they definitely don't get as many bookings. For example, when it was the Moorings, you'd have a different act on every weekend, and their website would be absolutely chock full, whether it's tribute acts, local bands, indie bands, metal bands, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now it's not as big as it used to be, and that was before COVID-19, and I'm hoping that changes, because I've seen Anthrax there, I've seen Metallica there, the Metallica tribute. It's great for a rock night. Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses. I've also seen Joel Turner, former Deep Purple Rainbow vocalist, do an acoustic set there in 2015. Aberdeen local prog band Palace from the 80s. They've played there many a time. I love it. It's just a great atmosphere. Blaze Bailey, formerly of Iron Maiden, has played there about maybe 3 times.
Right.
And Martin Turner from Wishbone Ash, the original singer and bass player Wishbone Ash, he's played there at least 2-3 times. It's getting the people to continue to come back. Some people do, some people don't. The 2 that have recently shut down, and this is what I get really upset about, is on Windmill Bray. You had a venue there that was 3 names. Firstly, it was called Mashulu, so it was a club and a gig venue. Then it was changed, the name closed down for a while, then it was changed to Warehouse. Then it was laid empty for 2 years. Then it opened as the Garage. Okay?
Right.
And of course, as we know...
So the Garage in Aberdeen, the area that you're talking about, is not far from the bus station?
Not far from the bus station at all. So the Garage was on Windmill Bray, and when we heard that there was a garage opening in Aberdeen, we were like, great. And when I heard the building number he used, I thought, perfect. I had some great nights at the Garage. Magnum played Aberdeen 3 times consistently because they liked Scotland so much. Some great tribute gigs at the Garage as well, great rock nights. But unfortunately, a week after the Magnum gig in 2018, they announced that they were no longer going to be Doing business, the time in Aberdeen, they said we've had a great 6 years, but that's it. Again, very suddenly. And the excuse that we were given was that it was A, no longer feasible, and B, there was lack in booking acts. Now, the garage stage was also very tiny, and I don't know if you've ever seen any indoor pictures of it.
I've seen some photographs. But
Now, if you compare it to the Glasgow one, the Glasgow garage is the biggest nightclub in Scotland.
But it's got three different
floors.
Yeah.
Now, the venue, I've been to the garage in Glasgow many a time for a gig, and I love it. The Aberdeen garage it had a great space, small stage, but people loved it.
Mm-hmm.
People loved it. In fact,
kind of like Krakatoa.
Exactly. In fact, well, this is the mad thing. Just before Lemmy from Motorhead died, that in early 2015, Motorhead were scheduled to do a UK tour, and it was the first UK tour that Lemmy had done in a while because they thought he was going to be okay. The opening act for Motorhead on that tour was Saxon. The night after that tour was in Glasgow, Saxon were due to play Aberdeen for the first time since 1981 in the garage on that really small stage. I couldn't see it if it didn't, but the reason it was cancelled was because of Lemmy's death. The whole tour was pulled. But lots of tickets have been sold for that, and I can't help but wonder what that would have been like.
Yeah.
And then, so the garage shut down, very sad. Second, and of the closed down ones, and my last one I'm going to mention in terms of the current times, is the Assembly. The Assembly is across the road from His Majesty's Theatre in Union Terrace. The Assembly used to be called the Forum, and the Forum was held for functions and weddings as well as a gig venue and a nightclub. The Forum had many big names play there. They had Hawkwind, the Stranglers, and the big name across the northeast is the Billy Shears Band, who were a great tribute to the Beatles. I could name many different acts that played the Forum, but the Forum shut down in I could be wrong about this, but I think it was 2015 because nobody was using it. Then at the end of 2016, it was announced that it was going to reopen as the Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
My first, and this is, if I get touchy about this, I'm sorry. I heard the American rock band LA Guns. Don't know if you've heard of them. The band that kickstarted Guns N' Roses.
Oh yeah.
Were doing a UK tour, their first UK tour with their original lineup in years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their first UK tour ever with the original lineup. I don't know. They were playing two gigs in Scotland. One was at the ABC, sadly again no longer in Glasgow, and then the Assembly in Aberdeen. Now, when I didn't know where the Assembly was, and then when my dad told me it was, I thought, perfect. I went down there. There was nobody at that gig. It was the poorest attended gig in the whole tour.
Why do you think that was?
Because Aberdeen has got a very, very big problem with promotion. Whoever took over the Assembly did not run it properly, and I don't know who you are. I was on social media at that time. I came off it a bit while later, but whoever ran it, for some reason, Aberdeen does not get the promotion. Posters do not get put up. Fair enough, they mention things on their Facebook page, but nothing gets advertised properly in Aberdeen, and that included the gigs for the garage as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was the poorest attended gig of the tour. LA Guns were playing to a room of like 15 people, and that room can hold. It's got a balcony as well.
A few hundred there.
Yeah, a few hundred at least. Yeah. Graham Bonnet from Rainbow was the same. He came up with his band. From Graham Bonnet was in Alcatraz, Michael Schenker group as well. Known for that big song with Rainbow, Since You've Been Gone. He played with his band. Hardly anybody there. Jeff Tate's version of Queensrÿche came up and did Operation Mindcrime, fairly full. And then the one that really gets my goat was one of the last gigs that happened there before it closed was Martin Turner's Wishbone Ash.
Mm-hmm.
And they came up and did their New England album all the way through, and again, hardly anybody there.
Yeah.
It was as if they were booking acts too big for the place, and whoever ran it didn't really have a clue. The biggest attempt.
I mean, these bands that you're mentioning, that they do have a big following.
I know, yeah.
So it's quite unusual that the attendance was so poor.
You go to see any of these bands in Glasgow, full.
Mm-hmm.
Full. I watched the gig of the LA Guns the following night in Glasgow, packed.
Yeah, and you can't say you can't say that it's to do with maybe there's not a big fan base up here, because there is. There are fans out here.
Well, there are some, because some people just don't bother to go. That's why some people don't come to Aberdeen now, because the fans make the fuss to these certain acts. Oh, come on, and then some people don't bother to go because people in Aberdeen, some are very lazy. There's not the gig-going people in Aberdeen like there is in Glasgow, but there are many people. If the promotion was done correctly, that could. Do
you think that's also as a result of the lack of decent venues?
Probably. I mean, I'm grateful for what we still have, to be honest with you. I am grateful. But there are some bands that regularly come back. There's some bands that have been a couple of times before, and then Aberdeen just gets left off the radar. For me...
Well, a lot of... I'm just speaking from the metal community.
From the metal community.
A lot of the groups tend to come to Glasgow.
They do.
And then struggle to go further afoot from there, so they struggle to get to Aberdeen. Obviously, the big, massive bands like Iron Maiden can do it, and they've done that the last twice, haven't they?
Iron Maiden have done Aberdeen. Iron Maiden have been to Aberdeen now, playing arenas in Aberdeen since back in 2011, because the last time they were in Aberdeen before that was 1992 on, I think, Fear of the Dark tour, or maybe No Prayer for the Dying, where they played the Capital, which I'll get to in a minute. But Iron Maiden have come back to Aberdeen because they have realised that Glasgow's not the only, But Iron Maiden's a huge name. AC/DC played the AECC in 1996, never came back. Def Leppard played it in the 90s.
1986 was 24 years ago.
It's weird. It's weird. It is.
It's crazy to think that. I mean, when I come here, I'm only speaking from my experience, but whenever I come up here, there are loyal people, there are metalheads, rock people that want to go to these concerts.
You're right.
And you engage them and you speak to them about it, and they're really passionate about it. But no one ever comes up. And maybe it is because of a population, maybe it's because bands feel like they won't make as much money when they come here than if they go to Glasgow or Edinburgh, because it's a bigger population.
You're right.
But it's a shame.
It's a shame.
It is. I mean, it's maybe not for everyone, but it's a big drive, 3-hour drive down to Glasgow.
Well, I mean, the thing is, and you know me, I do not mind travelling to Glasgow for a gig at all. There's something special about going to Glasgow for a gig, whether it's the Badlands, the Hydro, the O2 Academy, the Garage, the Cat House, the Classic Grand, wherever.
Yeah.
It's a great atmosphere. I love going to a gig in Glasgow, and most of the time, whether it's rock, indie, pop, everybody's really friendly. When I see a band twice, like maybe I go and see a band in Aberdeen and then go to Glasgow the following night, there's just something special about going to a gig in Glasgow. But then everybody makes the fuss, why don't you come here to Aberdeen? And when the band do make the effort and come, people don't.
Is it because people then don't mind? I mean, I'm not saying it's a 3-hour drive, but maybe people don't mind the travelling and they'd be willing to go to Glasgow to see bands.
Many people love the trip down to Glasgow because you get a day out, you get a day out with the boys, you park up, you have a few, you go and do some record shopping, you go for a few beers and a spot of food, and then...
But then again, not everyone can do that.
No, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do that, you're right. And I get it's tricky. I really do not know what it is about Aberdeen. There's a really good venue in Inverness called the Ironworks. That always attracts pretty big names, really big names. For instance, I'll give you an example. So back in the 70s, there was a venue in Aberdeen called the Capitol Theatre, and it was on Union Street, which is now then turned into a nightclub and is now a hotel. Every week there was a gig there. My dad, I could go on and on about the acts that played there: Status Quo, UFO, Thin Lizzy, Whitesnake, Motorhead, and I'm going to the more poppy acts now: Nick Kershaw, Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet. There was all Deep Purple have played there. The Iron Maiden have played there. Def Leppard have played there. Judas Priest have played there. Genesis have played there. And there was always a gig in the Capitol, right? The Capitol continued to get huge names. It closed down in 1997, and I was actually at the last ever gig at the Capitol, which was the Bootleg Beatles. My mum took me for my birthday. I was only 8 years old, and then the capital was no more. The capital apparently was not repairable. It was completely fallen to bits. It was an old theatre. In fact, Scots rock band Delamitri in '97 recorded a live concert there, and it's actually released on video DVD. The Capitol was a great venue, and it was taken away from us, and that's where everybody played mainly. That was where you played. If you were going to play in Scotland, in Aberdeen, in the 70s, 80s, Capitol's where you played. So my dad saw UFO many times in the Capitol, and when Aberdeen was always on UFO's tour radar. And then when UFO did their farewell UK tour last March, there was 3 Scottish dates on there. There was Glasgow, there was Edinburgh, and there was Inverness. There was no Aberdeen. Now, here's my opinion on it.
And Inverness is even further.
Yeah, well, exactly, because they did Edinburgh on the Friday, they did Inverness on the Saturday, and they did Glasgow on the Sunday. And I went to both the Inverness and Glasgow gigs because it was the same you did with Iron Maiden, because I love UFO that much. UFO could easily have filled the music hall in Aberdeen. They could easily have filled the assembly rooms in Aberdeen. They could have filled the beach. Sorry, I forgot one venue out. The Beach Ballroom, where I've seen the Stranglers and From the Jam, and I've seen Primal Scream there. I've seen Airborne there. They could easily have filled that, but for some reason, again, Aberdeen got from UFO's list, and we begged and begged. We emailed and emailed. It's not, and there's always a reason.
So was that they did Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Inverness? They
did Edinburgh on the Friday night, they did Inverness on the Saturday, and then they did Glasgow on the Sunday.
Do you think that's maybe more to do with oversaturation? So oversaturation is when there's too much going on. So they've got three gigs, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Inverness in Scotland. It's very unusual for a band to play a band like of the status of UFO to have more than 2 gigs.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, it's weird because when UFO did tours of the UK, sometimes they did it in 2 chunks. Like they do one half in the fall of the year, then they come back a few months later. So when I saw them in Inverness 10 years ago, they were doing Edinburgh the following night, but they'd already done Glasgow a few months before that. Mm-hmm. But this was like all these dates combined into one. It was a massive, massive tour. But you're right, it was unusual. But the same thing happened back in 2008 when I went to see Airborne. Airborne were kicking off huge at that point with their Running Wild, their debut album. And I saw them in Dundee, and they did, I think the order, I don't know the order, but the 3 Scottish dates were Glasgow, Inverness, Dundee. And that was quite strange as well.
Very unusual.
So, again, but they have been to Aberdeen, and I'm going to give them that. Mm-hmm. They made the effort to come here, and people were screaming out for Airborne to come to Aberdeen, and they finally did. But if a band like Airborne can fill the Beach Ballroom, and if only the Assembly had the right promotion, UFO could easily have been on that stage. Because you look at some of because where did they play in Edinburgh? The Queen's Hall. The Queen's Hall's got a tiny stage. Queen's Hall's a church. Doesn't hold that many people. I went there to see Black Star Riders, I believe. And it just astounded. So when I went there and looked at the venue, I thought, there's venues in Aberdeen that are bigger and better. There's no offence, Glasgow, because you're in Edinburgh, sorry. But yeah, it's strange. It's strange. And it's something that bugs me and bugs my dad and bugs a lot of people. But when acts that we admire do come here, we're happy and we make do with it. It's just a shame that those 2 venues, the Assembly and the Garage, are no longer. My wish is that when all this rubbish with COVID is over, that someone decent, who has a bit of dough in their pocket, will maybe, and with the support of people, will maybe hopefully get these venues up and running again. Mm-hmm. I really, really, really hope so. I really do.
I think it's a shame because for me it certainly feels like places like Aberdeen are on the front line of are the first to be affected with the closures, because I ultimately feel that the closing down of music venues, and this has nothing to do with coronavirus, nothing to do with COVID-19, it's going to start the lack of interest in the music industry, the lack of people going to gigs, making purchases and going to venues on a weekly basis to see smaller bands, it's ultimately going to end up killing a lot of the music industry within the entire country.
You're absolutely
But I think places with smaller populations like Aberdeen are on the front lines. Aberdeen, Dundee will be the same.
Yeah.
They're on the front lines with these.
You're absolutely right. And I actually don't think that venue in Dundee that when I saw Airborne is anymore. Fat Sam's. Have you heard of that?
I don't. I've only been to Dundee a number of times.
I only go the only venues that I go to gigs in Dundee now is mainly the Beat Generator, which is like a Krakatoa type club. It's a dive, but it's a good dive. I love the Beat Generator. I love it. I saw Made in Scotland there. I've seen Still Marillion there. I've seen they're a tribute to Deep Purple and Rainbow. Blackmore's Blood. Really good. It's a great sweat. They've got vinyl on the wall and everything.
Right.
Great place. And there's the Caird Hall in Dundee where you get bands like, well, for instance, I was due to see Steve Hackett there from Genesis. That's been changed next year. Paul Weller, due to play there too. So they get their big names. In fact, I think a band called Royal Blood recently played the Caird Hall.
I've seen Royal Blood support Foo Fighters.
Yes.
They did that in Murrayfield Stadium.
Yes.
Obviously they were support.
When Dave Grohl was in the chair.
Yes. When Dave Grohl was in the chair with his foot up.
I will say this, I've only seen the Foo Fighters once, and it was in Aberdeen, and it was just before they reached stadium status, and I would love to see the Foo Fighters.
Where did they play in Aberdeen?
The place where we saw Iron Maiden.
So the Oil and Gas Arena,
and
which is no more.
And the opening act was Serge Tankian from System of a Down.
With the solo stuff?
Yeah, we got there just as he came on stage. It was great. It was a great night. But the thing is, they after that they've never done a UK arena tour again, because what happened the following year? Because that was in November 2007. What were they doing in summer of 2008? They were headlining Wembley Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Echo Silence period. So
Foo Fighters are. I mean, I do like Foo Fighters. They're a massive band. They're a massive rock band. They'll never go back to playing arenas, but they do play surprise nightclub gigs every now and then.
Well, the thing is that's another thing, is that bands like doing that. Bands like turning up and play, like for instance, the Foos do a surprise gig when they're away and out a big UK tour. They'll turn up in Brighton, or they'll turn up in Ipswich, or they'll turn up in Frome and play the Cheese and Grey venue there, and but they like that. And also another guy, as you know, who loves doing that and is so not in this for the money, is Steve Harris, because he will play all the big arenas and stadiums in the world with Maiden, and then of course his side project British Line, who I did see in the Lemon Tree, because he loves playing clubs.
Yeah, I've seen him play Classic Grand in Glasgow.
And he comes out and signs stuff, and he doesn't pay for meet and greets.
Yeah, I met him. He was a nice guy. Spoke to him for about not even 5 seconds.
Shy, right? Sometimes because you just come off stage. But what does that tell you if he's taking the time for people and doing that?
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. It's difficult for him to do it with Maiden because they're gigantic. But for a side project like British Line, it's much easier. Yeah.
I think if you saw him walking down the street, he would sign something for you if you were nice to him. Mm-hmm. I don't like people that throw stuff. I don't like people that throw stuff in his face. Like, please. I don't like that at all. Mm-hmm. Again.
It must. I mean, I do get it. There are a lot of musicians that will not do it, and I get why. See, if it happened to me in the street, people coming up to me all the time, I'd probably lose it eventually.
Okay, yeah.
But I think you're right. Steve Harris has kept his cool.
I think Blaze Bailey also said something that he would never ever charge for meet and greets because because the fans are what makes him do what he does.
Yeah. There you go. So let's go back and talk about the arena, because last time I was here, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was Oil and Gas Arena, and you're saying that that's now. Well, they took that away.
Yeah, the AECC, or the Aberdeen Exhibition and Conference Centre, opened in 1990, and then changed to the Press and Journal Arena, and then the Oil and Gas Arena. The shed, the shed, as it was called, where the concerts were done,
And if you ever had a chance to go there, I honestly think that it's got a really good sound.
There's a lot of people that disagree with you. I do agree with you, Jack. I think it did have a good sound, and I actually think that when we saw Maiden there, the twice together that we did, it couldn't have sounded better. Who else have I seen there? Peter Gabriel. That was stunning. Yeah, well, it was. It was an interesting gig because he was never going to come back to Aberdeen again. I've seen the Killers there. I've seen the Stereophonics there. I've seen Oasis there. I know you don't like Oasis. I've seen Travis there. I've seen Keane there. I've seen Gary Barlow there.
Wow.
It's been
so Matthew gets around with his music.
The script, yeah, because but the what they've done now is they were going to build this new arena, and it was called Tekka Arena in Aberdeen, which is the equivalent of the exhibition centre.
So did they demolish the old one?
Yeah, I think the old one's gone now. Yeah, I don't go up to that area much now because my grandparents don't live in Bridgetdawn anymore. But right next to it, as you know, remember they lived right next to it. But
so where is the Tekka then? Is that built?
It's now beside Aberdeen Airport. It's nowhere near.
It's a little bit out.
Yeah, a little bit out there. A bit of criticism with that when it first happened. Because the parking was so expensive, and the buses are actually really, really good and reliable to get you out there. It's just a shame again that Tekka opened in October of last year, and then we were into COVID-19. Tekka is the arena for Tekka. I remember walking in with the Alice Cooper gig, and with me and my pal Keith, and we had a few beers, and we got ourselves some food, and we walked into the arena, and we were like, whoa! And there was two opening acts that night. There was the MC5, Kick Out the Jams, and then there was, of course, another band that you're not a fan of, but I like. It was the Stranglers. They were the opener, which I actually thought was strange because you and I saw the Stranglers open for Simple Minds, didn't we?
I actually never caught the
Didn't see them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, in Glasgow, no.
Yeah, I did. I took my dad to see Simple Minds.
I like Simple Minds.
I think they're very good musicians. It's not my scene, but I do listen to them now and then. But it's my dad's.
Well, I was due again. That's been put due to see them again. It's been postponed to next year in the big arena. The sound in Tekka is marvellous. It's a great.
Because you've seen Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper there. I've seen Michael Bublé because it was my girlfriend's Christmas present.
He's making excuses.
No, it was my girlfriend's Christmas present. Stereophonics. That was my 13th time.
I didn't even know Michael Bublé was still doing stuff. I thought he retired.
No. Oh. He played 2 nights there, and it was the sound is phenomenal. It's a great sound. It's a great laid out arena. The only thing I've criticised is you know how the Hydro's got all the, when you're outside the Hydro, you've got your food stands and you've got this, that, and the next thing. You don't have any really much in way of seating areas. So it's a bit out of the way. Yeah, they don't have really much about seating areas. It is a bit out of the way to get to, but I like it. I liked it when it was open.
Because the thing about the oil and gas, and I call it that, but
what's weird?
I think most people refer to it as that. The oil and gas was that it was not too far away from the city.
It wasn't.
And it was basically on this big main stretch of road, and there was like a retail park, like McDonald's and all the fast food stuff. So like if you had a really good night, you were walking back out of town, you wanted something to eat.
There was a McDonald's. There was a McDonald's across the road. There wasn't so much of a retail park, but I get me. Yeah, it was. I liked it. I didn't like it. And it was handy for me because my grandparents used to live up the road, and I could just go and bunk with them. Of course, now they've moved house anyway, but now you've got to.
How dare you?
I know, how dare my Ellen and Charlie.
Move next to the Tekka.
No, they've moved. They would not move up that way. My granddad driving all the way, he would not handle that. But you know what? Tekka has got good reports so far, and I actually think that if you and I have the opportunity, because we were discussing this, I think if Maiden did another UK arena tour, that would be on their list. I really hope so.
What do we think about other bands? If, like, for example, because this was a big speculation on the podcast that I did before,
right,
with the Damage reviews. Judas Priest.
Interesting.
right? Because we were talking about Judas Priest were supporting Ozzy on this double rescheduled No More Tours.
Yes, it'll be the fifth. It'll be the fourth time it's been cancelled when dates ever get announced.
But Priest have put in all the dates for next year for their 50th anniversary.
Apart from UK.
But apart from UK, because we think that they might be doing the UK dates with Ozzy, but there's no. Is that still scheduled for October?
Judas Priest recently, 2 days ago, announced rescheduled the US dates that were meant to be in the summer up to September. That are now changed to next year. They've also had to cancel some completely. There's also some European dates.
They are confirmed for Bloodstock.
They are confirmed for Bloodstock next year. There's also been some European stuff that's been changed, but nothing about the UK. They were supposed to do this UK gig in February last year. It was then changed to October last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was then changed to February this year, and it was then changed to October this year.
Right.
But the thing I want to know, and again, this is I saw Judas Priest on what was meant to be their final tour at the XEC in Glasgow, right? Then they come back with Redeemer of Souls and the tour, and they play the Badlands.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're playing arenas with Ozzy Osbourne, but it's making me wonder: are Priest struggling? Not in America
to fill
arenas in the UK.
Yeah, when was the last time they're not done a Firepower?
They've only did Bloodstock in 2018, and that really annoys me because they're a British band.
And I think actually, if I might be wrong with this, but I think looking at Firepower, it was very successful here.
It was.
So why
even more successful than the last one?
So there is still an audience here for them. It's their home country.
I know.
Why are they not?
Well, I don't know if they would necessarily do Aberdeen, but again, it astounds me that it's pretty obvious that this tour with Ozzy is not going to happen. And I don't think Ozzy's going to tour after this. I mean, he's been told that it's the last thing he should do.
If I was to give my honest opinion on it, I don't think this tour is going to happen
at all. No, I don't either.
And do you know what? Ozzy's got nothing to prove.
No,
he's a legend, and he always will be.
Yeah.
Totally immortalised within the metal and the rock community. He doesn't need to do this.
Absolutely.
And if he goes, great. I'll be there to support him.
So yeah,
but I'm not. I wouldn't force him. I've seen Black Sabbath play the Hydro in 2017.
Yeah, me too.
And that was the kind of. I mean, I did see Ozzy again the year after.
Download, yeah.
But for me, that was it. I was like, I'm happy with that.
I think maybe if he decided to retire once the whole Black Sabbath reunion thing was done, then fine.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. He decided to carry on, and who are we to tell anybody to stop? Except for Paul McCartney, who can't sing anymore. Pains me to say that, Paul, but you can't. You cannot do it.
Could he ever?
Yes, he could. So, but yeah, you're right. And the thing is now is that Priest are now down 2 guitarists technically, because Glenn Tipton is still a part of the band, but he doesn't tour with them anymore.
He's really unwell. Yeah.
And Richie Faulkner's been with them for 11 years now, and he's kicking butt, along with Scott Travis and Ian Hill doing what they do, and of course, the god Rob Halford. Is it still Priest to me? I've seen footage. Yeah, I'd go. I would go, definitely. But it
pains me to say it, but they're like my last bucket list band. I've never actually seen them. Never had a chance.
It's a great show. For me, my last bucket list band is someone that I know I'll never see, because they haven't been to the UK for well over 25 years. Their first time ever in the UK was they were touring with Black Sabbath, and they got thrown off the tour because of bad behaviour. They played Aberdeen actually, and that's Van Halen. Van Halen are probably, for me, with Sammy Hagar or David Lee Roth, either one of them, my bucket list, my last bucket list band, and then that would be it, because I think I've done most. Priest, yeah, I would say if you got a chance to see Judas Priest, absolutely go.
Take it.
What about a band that have broke up, or a lineup that you know you'll never ever see? What have you had to go back in time?
A band that have broke up, I'll never get a chance.
Or a lineup, or a classic moment in that band's period.
Metallica with Jason Newsted.
Oh, really? Okay. That's
That's
interesting.
controversial because you think I was going to say Cliff Burton.
I don't blame you. It was a great period. The Black Album.
I really like Jason Newsted. I mean, for me, and Justice for All is the ultimate Metallica record.
It's a great.
We can have a discussion about whether or not Jason Newsted had an input in that because of the lack of bass on the record.
Yes, indeed.
But even he has came out and said it suits the record, and that was the way it was. There was never any animosity there. I like the Black Album. It's a fantastic record. I think if you were to say otherwise, then I mean I get it. It's not really the same as the old thrash stuff. But I think Jason Newsted. I love Robert. I think he's a fantastic bass player.
Oh, Rob is a great bass player.
But
Absolutely.
I think, and I've seen Robert play with Metallica, but I think it would be interesting to see Jason Newsted.
Absolutely. For me, I think it would be Deep Purple with Richie Blackmore.
Right.
Because, as you know, Purple are my gods, and I think that Steve Morse has done a remarkable job. But I think to go back and see Purple in the early 70s, in Rock and Machine, Fireball Machine period, with Richie Blackmore slinging away. Probably actually in 74 too, when David Coverdale and Mike Hughes were in Deep Purple, I'd go and see that as well. So for me, that would be my top. If someone said to me, if you could go back in time and see anything. Second, probably AC/DC with Bon Scott.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because, Brian, I love you, but I was re-listening to all the Bon albums recently, and even when you see footage of him, Bon just had something. There was just something special about the young brothers and Bon together. And he had a great voice.
Yeah.
Didn't warm up anything. He could down a whole bottle of Jack and just go on and do it. Stunning. So he.
I wonder how long he would have been able to last.
Well, Angus Young actually said, "Can we build a prison big enough to keep him in it?" That's what Angus Young said about Ron.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because we're coming up to the end now, but if you had one piece of advice to someone who lives in Aberdeen, and if you're talking to them from a point of view of improving the music industry here, what do you think the advice would be to people like bands that are considering playing here? If you want to speak to fans that live within the area, within a radius of Aberdeen, and venues as well.
I would say give Aberdeen a chance, really. I mean, I would say, look, there are the fans there, but I would also say to the fans, look up what's happening and go. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also, for the venues, promote it heavily. That's what I would say. Because, okay, you get your idiots at gigs, you always do, but the majority of the people at Aberdeen are very, very friendly and outgoing at gigs. Like Glasgow, you look out for each other. I would just say to the people, keep an eye on what's coming to Aberdeen. And if someone does come to Aberdeen and you like it and it's on your bucket list, go and see it. Because if they get the people at the venues, those bands will most likely come back.
Mm-hmm.
But also I would say to the venues, keep promoting stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was the problem with the Assembly and the Garage, was that the things just were not getting promoted properly.
Mm-hmm.
And people were getting off their butts to go and see things.
Yeah.
If people don't get on their butts, bands are going to stop coming, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that's or the conclusion of what we think is happening here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, again, like you said, I don't mind travelling to Glasgow for gigs. You don't mind coming up here. But that's pretty much what I'd have to say on the matter. And I really hope that once all this rubbish with COVID-19 is over and we can embrace live music again, I really do hope. If I had the money and the knowledge, I'd start up with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I really would. But
I think you do have the knowledge. You just need a good team and a few million.
Yeah, a couple of mil. I just wish, because the thing is that the Assembly, I showed you a picture of earlier, it's lying there empty and it's a perfect space.
Yeah.
It's just one of those. It's just unfortunate. And the Garage as well, great space. I just wish that someone would buy over those venues and take over them.
Yeah.
Because they were the two bigger ones. The ones that we've got now are smaller, but still good. We're still at Music Hall Tivoli and Teca and Music Hall Teca Tivoli. To an extent, sometimes you get the odd musical act in Manchester Theatre as well. So
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for coming on.
Pleasure.
It was good speaking to you. It's excellent coming up here. I always love coming up here. Really enjoyable.
We have some good times.
Good people, good music. It's an excellent place. It's a really nice part of the country as well.
And actually, we had as well. Next time you're up here, we are so going to pay that record shop another visit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I need to give them another shout out because they were really good.
Yeah, so
Aberdeen Vinyl Records.
Yeah, people go support that shop.
Yeah.
Friendly staff, great selection, and as I said, it's just moved round the corner from Aberdeen Market, which is no longer to its own premises on Union Street. So please go check it out. Support your local record stores. We need them.
Excellent. Yep. And go to gigs. Go see small bands. Go and support them.
Even when this all when the chance comes back to go see them. Whether it's tribute bands, local bands, slightly bigger names, bigger venues, small venues, go.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you keep going, people will keep coming back.
Exactly. That's it. So thank you very much.
Pleasure, mate, as always.
Matthew, my good pal from Aberdeen. You've been listening to the Iron Review podcast. Remember, give us a like on Facebook, Instagram. You can follow us. This will be uploaded to Spotify. That's where we kind of house it now. And if you guys have any suggestions, you can get in touch with us. If you have any comments that you want to make, then you can get involved. We are pretty active on social media, so get involved in there. And we will get back to you soon as, alright? But stay in touch for the next one. But thank you again, Matthew.
Pleasure, mate, as always.
Right. Thank you very much.